Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today at BIEN 2025. My name is Huang. Today, I'll be presenting on More Money, Still Quit Smoking. This is a scoping review to evaluate the impact of UBI on tobacco tax effectiveness and regressivity in Taiwan. When we talk about universal basic income, a common question comes up. If people get extra cash every month, will they spend it on things like cigarettes? At the same time, governments use taxes on these products to discourage people from buying them. However, these so-called sin taxes are often regressive. You might wonder, what does regressive mean and why we care about combining UBI and tobacco tax? A regressive tax means the tax burden is heavier on low-income people even if the actual amount looks the same. For example, a flat bus fare of $2 feels much heavier for someone earning very little than for someone with a high income. Sounds familiar? Unrealistically speaking, if everyone got the same amount of tobacco tax, the tobacco tax would be a negative basic income. So the big question is, how do these two policies work together? Do they cancel each other out? Or can they actually complement each other? Our research questions are, first, UBI increases people's income. But does that extra income make people smoke more? And the second is, but even if UBI doesn't increase smoking, could it weaken the effects of tobacco taxes? Third, can UBI offset the regressive impact of tobacco taxation on low-income households? For this review, we use two sets of keywords. The first set focuses on universal basic income and related cash transfers, looking at their effects on smoking, health behaviors, and other temptation goods. The second set focuses on tobacco taxation in Taiwan, using terms like smoking, tax, price elasticity, and pricing policy. We search across several major databases: PubMed, Scopus, Web of Science, EconLit, the Taiwan RET Library, and also Google Scholar. In total, we identified over 1,000 records. After removing duplicates and irrelevant studies, we included 28 studies on tobacco taxation and 16 on cash transfers. So let me first talk about UBI and cash transfers. Most of the research on this topic was published fairly recently, after 2015. We found different types of studies: randomized control trials, quasi-experiments, reviews, and even one qualitative study. Most of these studies were done in low-income or vulnerable households, such as welfare recipients or poor rural families. Only a few studies looked at the general population. Across the studies, most trials and all the reviews found no significant effect of cash transfer on smoking. The amount spent on tobacco from these transfers was very small, usually less than 1%. Interestingly, qualitative study did suggest a possible decrease in smoking and substance use. The explanation was that with more financial stability, people feel less stress and had less need to escape through smoking. Unlike most other studies that show no significant effect, evidence from Indonesia's BLT program is more mixed. Some studies found smoking went down, others saw a small increase, and the larger study shows that people smoked about 3 to 4 more cigarettes per week. Still, cigarette spending made up only a small share of the transfer, around 1 to 4%. And importantly, bigger transfer amounts did not automatically lead to proportionally bigger increase in cigarette spending. Before moving on, let me briefly explain what income elasticity means. It measures how sensitive demand is to changes in income. For example, if your salary doubles but you still buy the same amount of rice, then the elasticity is close to zero. So positive values means people buy more as income rises, while negative values means people buy less. And a normal good is defined as something people buy more when their income goes up. Recall that we found close to zero income elasticity from UBI and cash transfer experiments. Let's use another perspective from cigarette taxes. Earlier studies in 1999 and 2004 give us a clear picture. They showed that tobacco behaves like a normal good, but with very low income elasticity, roughly between 0 and 0.26. This means that when income rises, cigarette consumption increases only a little, if at all, and it reinforces what we see from UBI and cash transfer experiments, especially in low-income groups. An increase in income does not lead to a significant increase in smoking. And in the few cases where smoking did increase, spending on cigarettes was less than 1% of the transfer and it didn't grow in proportion to transfer size. So the fear that people will spend their UBI on cigarettes is not supported by evidence. Before we look at the results for the second question, let me quickly explain what price elasticity means. It simply measures how sensitive people are to price changes. For example, if cigarette prices go up by 10% and people smoke about 3% less, then the elasticity is minus 0.3. So a larger negative number means people cut back more when prices rise. Coming back to the results, all the studies on elasticity came from Taiwan using data collected between 1999 and 2024. Most of the price elasticity estimates were from studies before 2013. In Taiwan, the results mainly fell into two groups. Some studies found the elasticity around minus 0.3 to minus 0.4, while others reported stronger effects around minus 0.6 to minus 0.8. Now, let's look at how income shapes responsiveness to cigarette prices. People in different income brackets respond to price increases, meaning the tax, differently. For people with lower monthly income below about 50,000 NT dollars, elasticity remained relatively large. A similar pattern was found in another study that used annual income groups. After converting, for those earning under 66,000 NT dollars per month, elasticity stayed large. This suggests that getting more income does not really reduce the effectiveness of taxation in lowering smoking, at least in the middle to low-income groups. To summarize the first two research questions, UBI does not increase smoking behavior nor weaken tobacco taxes. In fact, a study shows UBI does the opposite. It helps people invest in things that require financial stability, like education, health, or productivity, instead of cigarettes. So when taken together, The more likely scenario is this: tobacco taxes make cigarettes less attractive, and when people receive UBI and rethink their budgets, they tend to put cigarettes further down the list and shift spending to things that improve well-being. During our review, we have a disturbing discovery. We found that smokers are moving to cheaper or illicit products. Across 6 studies, the evidence was consistent. When tobacco price rises, many smokers, especially those with lower incomes, switch to cheaper brands or even illicit cigarettes. The effectiveness of taxation was undermined. Reported rates were significant. About 12 to 26% of smokers changed brands, and illicit consumption was also high, up to 40 to 43% in some groups. The income pattern was clear. Low-income smokers were far more likely to buy illicit cigarettes or switch to cheaper brands. For example, in one study, over half of frequent illicit cigarettes users earn less than 10,000 NT dollars per month, while very few were from higher income groups. This finding suggests that not only UBI can help balance out the regressive impact of tobacco taxes, poorer smokers often switch to cheaper or illicit and more harmful products when prices rise. By giving them more income, UBI reduces that pressure and helps avoid these risky substitutions. In Taiwan, our review suggests that UBI could act as a financial buffer, easing the regressive burden of sin taxes, while tobacco taxation remains a strong tool to reduce smoking. These two policies should be seen as complementary. Taxes discourage harmful consumption, while UBI protects vulnerable households. But one key limitation is that Taiwan has no large-scale UBI experiments yet. Our conclusions are based only on international evidence. So future pilot studies in Taiwan are essential to provide real data on how UBI and tobacco taxes interact. Thank you for your listening.